on your enemies?
Yes, bitch Lich King. I shall drain the blood from their bodies, strike them down with the power of the grave.
Yes, willing to, but I have a new weapon for you.
What, my King?
Take these. These are talents, legendaries, tier sets, and covenants.
And more?
And use them to show them that death comes for all.
Dancing.
A few moments later.
Just before we go into the talents, make sure you check our MoCast channel. Yes, we have a separate one where we actually do podcasts about specs and classes, and not all, we also chat about the game systems in general, especially lately with the Dragonfly talents announced. We've gathered the top brains in the Theory Crafters community and talked about how the talents are awfully placed and maybe not designed, but still need some work, and I'm not gonna spoil it for you. You can just go check it out. Our MoCast channel link is down in the description. You can hit a like, you can hit a subscribe, you can hit that bell notification to get notified, because we do usually a podcast a week or every other week, and it's pretty cool info. And if you're a WoW nerd and you just want to chill on Sunday lazy evenings when you just go for a jog on the treadmill, you can listen to a podcast, get some insight on the game that we all love. Thank you. Now let's go into the fucking thing. On the first row, once you get your hands on the 2 set piece, which at this point it should be a cakewalk to get, you will pick Tombstone. This will consume up to 5 bone shields to increase your runic power and provide a small absorb shield. The bone shield consumption transforms into up to 25 seconds of cooldown reduction for dancing rune weapon thanks to the Crimson Rune legendary. Before the 2 set, if you are still at this step, you can check out our Blood DK 9.1.5 guide, which hasn't had many things change up to that up until you get the new goodies in 9.2. On the next row, Hemostasis will be the best pick for every situation if you are not a Night Fae. It will increase Death Strike's healing for every target hit by Blood Boil and it caps at 40% increase. It's a very simple, very efficient choice. If you are a Night Fae and you are not bombarded by damage, Rapid Decomposition will pull up ahead. It will make Blood Plague and Death and Decay damage more often while increase the healing from the Plague. This option is, however, a very situational pick and not most recommended in all situations. Next up, the best choice and a very controlled option will be Blood Tap. With it, you can generate up to 2 runes and will have its cooldown reduced when a bone shield is consumed. Additionally, this will synergize very well with the new tier set, as you can have up to 2 on-demand additional hot strikes at the cost of just global cooldown. The other talents on this row are very niche and will rarely be better than Blood Tap. On the level 35 row, Will of the Necropolis will be the lifesaver your DK needs in every situation. Thanks to it, if you take damage while below 30% HP or damage that would take you below 30% HP, that damage will be reduced by 30% and you will survive hits that might normally kill you. In the raid, when you don't fear death and you are comfortable with the damage taken, you can go with Anti-Magic Barrier. This will help you a lot with more frequent high damage taken, thanks to the cooldown reduction and absorb increase added to Anti-Magic Shell. On the utility row, all options are viable, but your most desirable ones will be Wraith Walk in raids because the extra mobility for a wheelchair class is very appreciated, and also go with Grip of the Dead, usually in M+, for that sweet slow it provides to everything touched by death and decay. On the second to last row, go with Blood Worms for most of the situations, a passive option that will make your auto attacks generate blood worms to deal damage to your target, healing you by a portion of your missing health after 15 seconds or when you drop below 50% HP. In rare situations when you struggle to survive, if you prefer to gain more self-sustain at a cost of some small DPS, you can sacrifice all that for Voracious. Voracious, Vorocious, it's all the same. It's not, but it is, but it's not. This will increase the healing amount provided by your Death Strike and its minimum amount healed in addition to a fair amount of leech for 8 seconds. On the last talent row, finally, again, all options are viable depending on the situations you find yourself in. The most useful one can be considered to be Red Thirst, as the cooldown reduction for Vampiric Blood will allow you to use it in almost every pack and will make up for a better cooldown planning. When progressing in raids or in high Mythic Plus keys, you can take the Purgatory talent. Once every 4 minutes, you can survive fatal damage for 3 seconds, and if you or your healer can heal up the damage taken, you will survive in the end. Lastly, Bone Storm will be the best pick in AoE situations, or everywhere where you have the 2-set bonus. This will help you with the excess runic power generated because it's one global cooldown pressed. In a world where all your GCDs are taken by all hard strikes, you can throw to deal a lot of AoE damage and heal you. When talking about stats that you will prioritize, this time you'll get a rough representation for when you already have acquired the 2-tier set piece bonus, because before that you can still use our 915 guide for the stats section when choosing the correct ones. Still, with the new set bonus, your stats will concentrate more on getting as much haste and strength as possible. You will still want eye level, usually as the best stat for all of your items except jewelry, as they don't give strength or armor attached to them. Next up, you will need as much haste as possible. This will even overcome eye level for jewelry. Next up will be versatility, the old favorite, with critical strike very close to versatility this time around, and mastery all the way at the bottom, but not to be totally neglected. Choosing the right enchant for your weapon will have you save some gold, as you can engrave your blade with Rune of the Fallen Crusader enchant for that heal and extra strength it brings to the table. On your chest, use the Eternal Skirmish enchant for a little more damage in single target situations, and you can swap to the Eternal Stats one in AoE or high level Mythic Plus situation. Talking about high level Mythic Plus, or in general, use the Heavy Desolate Armor kit for that temporary stamina boost. For your cloaks, being a wheelchair class, the Fortified Speed enchant will help you gather adds faster in Mythic Plus, especially in the raids. The Soul Vitality enchant might even be better because it can help you survive more since it gives you extra health. Or if you prefer more leech, go with the Fortified Leech enchant and your self-sustain will grow a little. Don't forget the extra strength provided by Eternal Strength enchant on your hands. For your gems, use the Quick Jewel Cluster for the extra haste and 10 out of haste enchant for your rings. The haste provided will be godlike, but if you don't have the 2-set bonus yet, you can swap these for their versatility counterparts. The best flask for you will be the Flask of Power. Extra power translates into more strength, and this will be the best thing in all situations. When choosing the best potion, you will use the Potion of Spectral Strength this time with your 2-set bonus, and you can swap to Potion of Phantom Fire before acquiring the set with a Shadow Core oil on your weapon, of course, again in every situation. For Mythic Plus and generally every situation, use the Shaded Waystone or Sharpening Stones on your weapon. For a food buff, go with the Feast of Gluttonous Hedonism for the extra strength it buffs you with, or use the Tenebrous Crown Roast aspect to get more haste when no one has feasts around. Or, swap to the versatility counterpart before you get the 2-set tier bonus. With 925 and how easy it is now to catch up with the Covenant Renown and how to swap them around, all of them are pretty close to each other. With this in mind, you will want to have Kyrian ready for all situations. The Blue Boys will require you to have 2 Legendaries equipped, which at this point shouldn't be an issue anymore, and it will come to you with the Shackle of the Unworthy Covenant class ability. This ability will put a dot on your target that reduces your damage taken from that target, and it's pressed to a nearby enemy every time you hit that target with a rune consuming ability. The signature ability brought by the Kyrians is like it was made for tanks, as the Steward will provide you with the Phial of Serenity. This nice phial will be an extra Hellstone with 3 charges that can also clear your bleeds, curses, poisons, and diseases perfect to clear almost all of those pesky boss debuffs. The chosen Soulbind will be, to no surprise, Forge Light Prime Mechanicos. He has been a god since Renown was raised to 80, and you will use his 3 potency Conduit path in raids and the 2 potency one in Mythic Plus. Along those paths you will have access to Brawn's Call to Action firstly. This will summon Brawn to aid you in battle, knocking enemies away when he spawns, damaging them afterwards or healing you and your allies. After this, with a 2 potency Conduit path, you will have the Hammer of Genesis, a powerful trait that grants you a stacking haste buff for every new enemy you hit. Next up, Soul Glow Spectrometer will help you with a little more priority damage and give you access to an extra endurance conduit. Lastly, the Effusive Venom Accelerator will attach a small extra AoE damage to your Shackle spell, and also it will reduce its duration according to the number of enemies you hit with it. As a good alternative to Kyrians, you can go with the Necrolords, almost everywhere except Rigalon, as you'll probably wipe your raid there. Their Covenant specific ability is Abomination Limp. Will provide you with a good AoE spell that will generate 3 bone shields when used and every 6 seconds over its duration after that. And it will also pull enemies towards you every second. The signature ability will be Fleshcraft, a shield based on your max HP that can give you additional buffs depending on the chosen Soulbind. And speaking of Soulbinds, Plague Divisor Marilith will be the best all-around pick. With his 3 potency Conduit path, he will provide you with some pretty good traits. Firstly, Volatile Solvent will buff your Fleshcraft with different buffs according to what type of enemy corpse you use it on top of or pass by with a shield active. Note that it will always consume your life force to give you some mastery. Next, you'll have Ooze's Frictionless Coating, a small shield that activates every time you are taken under half HP, and it's on a small 30 seconds cooldown. Ultimate Form will help you cheese up some mechanics that would normally CC you, as you will get CC immunity while channeling Fleshcraft, and 4 seconds after that. Next up, another defensive trait will be Undulating Maneuvers, which will provide you with a weak stagger-like mechanic while you are close to full HP. At the bottom of Marilith's Soulbind tree, you will have Kevin's Oozeling, and this will summon an Oozeling to fight alongside you when you use your Abomination Limb ability, increasing the taken damage of your target and throwing random absorb shields to your allies. Honorable mentions go to the Night Phase, as they have the power to deal the most amount of damage, but are a little more harder to play, and on the other side of the spectrum, Venthirs are a little easier to play and more defensive in AoE. Using the paths recommended by us, you will need some conduits, and starting with the potency ones, you will want the Covenant specific one first. That will be the Proliferation for Kyrians, increasing the duration of your shackle and its damage, allowing you to spread it even more. For Necros, Brutal Grasp will be the way, increasing Abomination Limb damage. As your second choice, Withering Plague will be the pick, synergizing very well with the Forset bonus, and it will increase the damage of Harsh Strike to enemies affected by your Blood Plague. If you need a third choice, Adaptive Armor Fragment will provide you with the strength needed. For your endurance slots, Meat Shield will be your first choice for the increased duration of Dancing Rune Weapon, again synergizing with the tier set, and when you parry, you will get a stacking health buff. Secondly, you can get the Condensed Anima Sphere for a little more self-healing when you take damage. And if by chance you need a third conduit, just use the Hardened Bones one to make Lichborn have a small damage reduction attached to it. As for the finesse slots, use the Fleeting Wind firstly to sprint around the battlefield the first 3 seconds of Death's advance. Chilled Resilience next for a big cooldown reduction to your Icebound Fortitude, with Spirit Drain as an alternative or third choice when you interrupt a lot for the extra runic power you receive. In your trinket slots, for a little more damage, get the boring but efficient Phial of Putrefaction, from the Blakefall dungeon of course. Every damage you deal will have a chance to poison your enemies, leaving a stacking dot. On the more controlled side of the spectrum, the Blood Spattered Scale trinket from the other side dungeon will again be a good pick. It will damage every enemy around you when activated and grant you a big fat shield. While doing the other side dungeon, you can also take the Overwhelming Power Crystal. The crit it provides will be converted into parry, so it will synergize well with the Forcep bonus and of course extra damage. From the last raid, the Old Warrior's Soul still holds its ground as the stacking haste buff of choice, which will hold for the entire fight while in combat. So the longer you fight, the longer the trinket will stay active for. That's pretty good, right? And talking about extra stats, from the raid you have a cool trinket in Elegy of Eternals that will give you a bunch of extra secondary stats, usually haste, and will also grant other party members that are in the same covenant as you the same extra secondary stat. or if you can't get your hands on one of these elegies, just go with solely a secret technique from the Upper Tazavech dungeon. You'll need a party member to use it on, preferably one with high haste rating, and it will give you a bunch of that stat and share a little of it with them as well. When it comes to gear, you'll be a special snowflake with a very powerful weapon in the Gavel of the First Arbiter from the Jailer. It's a very interesting weapon that can grant you one of 5 buffs, and it will increase your DPS by a good portion. If you cannot get your hands on this weapon, use any one of 278 eye level weapons from the weekly vault, prioritizing having haste and verse on it. For 925, because you can use double legendary, the first one that you will have in your arsenal will be Unity. The belt will be acquired from finishing Zerath Mortis campaign, and it will grant you your Covenant specific legendary effect. And if you work a little and get to be revered with the Enlightened, you can build it on any slot you prefer. For the second legendary, you will have only one choice, the Crimson Rune weapon. Build it on your waist slot or hands or shoulders if you have the 5 tier pieces and you can swap them around to make your Dancing Rune weapon generate 5 bone shields when used, and each bone shield consumed will reduce the cooldown of said ability. Thanks to this legendary and the tier set bonus, your Dancing Rune weapon will have close to 100% uptime if played correctly. As a Blood Decay, your tier set will be godlike and will morph you into one of the top tanks in every ranking. The 2-set bonus Endless Rune Waltz will make every hard strike used while Dancing Rune weapon is active to increase its duration and your strength by a small amount. This bonus is capped because of a recent nerf, but is still very powerful and it will stay active for a short while even after Dancing Rune weapon finishes. As for the 4-set bonus, it will give you 2 bonuses actually. The first one will be a chance equal to your parry chance to retaliate on enemies that damage you with a hard strike. This bonus has a small internal cooldown, providing you with the runic power and strength and duration increase your runic weapon ability, even when retaliating to a ranged attack that will not hit. The second bonus is an extra Dancing Rune weapon, and now all of your attacks will have triple effects, even the effect from the 2-set bonus. The tier set will affect your rotation a lot, as the 2-set bonus will put Hard Strike at the top of the priority list during Dancing Rune weapon, so that you will have almost 100% uptime on it, and after you get the 4-set piece, Mararend will generate 9 bone shields instead of 6, reducing the amount of times you have to press it. Also, with 4-set, you will generate more runic power thanks to the free hard strikes casted when you get hit. With this in mind, before you acquire the tier set, which shouldn't be that long, you can check out our latest 915 Blood Decay video for the rotation, as it didn't really change that much since then. Opener for single target as Kyrian starts usually non-shrouded, since you won't always have a rogue in your group. So you taunt if you tank first. Dancing Rune weapon after, use Hard Strike, Blood Boil to apply the dot, Hard Strike 2 more times, Shackle the Unworthy, Hard Strike 2 more times again, use Mararend since at this point you should be close to 1 Bone Shield, Tombstone next, Bone Storm if talented, Hard Strike spam and move to the single target rotation. Your single target priority and rotation during Dancing Rune weapon sees you using Hard Strike for the buff and prolonging rune weapon as long as you have less than 3 runes recharging. Mararend if Bone Shield is at 2 stacks or close to expiring, Shackle the Unworthy on cooldown, Blood Tap if you are at few runes and to not overcap on the charges, Death Strike to spend runic power even if you don't need a healing, in case of capping, Blood Boil to keep the charges rolling, Tombstone to reduce Dancing Rune weapon's cooldown, Bone Storm if talented, Death Strike if your health spikes, and continue Hard Striking. When you open in multi-target, you will want to focus on gathering 1 or 2 or maybe 3 packs depending on how much you think you can take on, and you start by taunting on the first pack that you want to pull. Use Dancing Rune weapon right away before any enemy can hit you. Use Death and Decay on the next pack or close to the spot you want to tank at. Use Blood Boil to put the dot and get some aggro, Hard Strike while in Death and Decay 3 times, Shackle the Unworthy when you are at 3 or fewer runes, delaying it by as little as possible. Try to Hard Strike the Shackle target to start spreading it, Mararend if at 1 or close to 1 stack, Tombstone next to get the cooldown reduction on Dancing Rune weapon, Bone Storm next, continue Hard Striking while moving to the priority. This is basically a point of reference. Your multi-target opener can change based on situations and what you have available going in. Think of this as a reference, but always adapt to your own situation. This is not the be-all end-all. Your multi-target priority during Dancing Rune weapon is as usual, and you should have it up for every pack. Use Marend if Bone Shield is about to fall off or at 1 stack remaining. Hardcast Death and Decay if 5 or more targets are available. Hard Strike to increase Dancing Rune weapon duration and to generate threat on up to 5 nearby targets. Blood Boil to keep charges rolling and to keep on generating AoE threat. Blood Tap to not overcap on charges. Tombstone on cooldown. Bone Storm if talented and close to runic power cap. Death Strike if close to runic power cap. Hard Strike as much as you can if Dancing Rune weapon is close to 3 seconds remaining. Your tanking ability sees Dancing Rune weapon used on cooldown. Vampire Blood also has close to on cooldown or when you actually need it. Death Strike if close to runic power cap or after a big hit. Rune Tap if a predictable tank buster is about to happen. Icebound Fortitude for when you need a big wall. Anti-Magic Shell if a big magical hit is about to happen or a dot is coming. Anti-Magic Zone if an AoE magical hit is about to happen. Lichborn on cooldown for leech and a minor damage reduction. This is just a basic representation of what to expect when starting your Blood Decay adventure. For more advanced things like the weapon swap and execute phases or better priority rotations and openers, depending on the situation, don't hesitate to check the Accurus Discord. There you will find the biggest of the DK brains to help out with any questions you might still have. One such brain is Mandel, who helped us better understand the ins and outs of the spec. You can catch him in a lot of class discords and also on our MoCast podcast. Cheers, dude. You are a gem to the WoW community. And a gem to our community are the patrons who are supporting the channel. Thank you very much, everybody, for supporting the guides and the TLFs and the on cooldown videos, opinion pieces, streams, and everything that we do. Your support is actually worth a lot and we are really grateful for it. And if you, dear viewer, want to support us a little bit more, check the link down below to our Patreon page. You'll find a couple of tiers. Some of them might have some goodies that you might be interested in, and you will be supporting the content that you love and helping us make more and more videos into the future. Don't forget about our MoCast channel, by the way, for some awesome WoW talks. Thank you for watching the video. See you next time.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.